Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How we all doing? Welcome into the channel. Welcome to tonight's Q&A live stream, where we have a lot to talk about, in fact, because it's a busy week at Celtic. We've been linked with Jamie Vardy. Brendan Rodgers has spoke about the transfer window and Champions League qualifiers, and we've got exactly that to talk about tonight. The fact that Celtic take part in their Champions League playoff tie. First leg tomorrow night at Celtic Park. Kairat Almaty of Kazakhstan will visit Parkhead. And we have a big task ahead of us to qualify for the UEFA Champions League. It's a qualification process that on paper should be very straightforward for Celtic. But as frustration grows amongst the Celtic supporters throughout these months that have gone by and going into the Champions League qualification process, the pressure is on Celtic. Like, we can't deny that. That's one of those things that can't be ignored at this moment in time. Like, we can act like things are hunky-dory as much as you like, or you can pretend that everybody's fine, but they're not. There's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of questioning of the Celtic board and hierarchy. And this Champions League qualification, for as routine as it should be, is turning into a bigger problem. A problem that could grow arms and legs should Celtic not win convincingly tomorrow night. Brendan Rodgers today at his press conference said this is a squad that he's confident will qualify for the Champions League. But beyond that, it still needs improvement. And I'm sure that Brendan Rodgers and all of us as Celtic fans expected more improvement in the Celtic squad before we played this game. It's the 19th of August. We have less than 2 weeks left of the summer transfer window. We've got a lot of work to do, and we'll talk about that tonight. Welcome in. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. If you're watching live, then make sure to get involved as always. And if you're not watching live, then I hope you enjoy the conversation we're about to have for the next half hour. It's good to see you all piling in the chat. We already have over 160 live viewers. I'll be getting all your opinions as we go on with this stream. Don't you worry. I guess we should start off with the Jamie Vardy conversation, get it all done and out the way, and then we'll come back to it in the Q&A session of the show. Brendan Rodgers was asked about Jamie Vardy at the press conference today. Just to quickly recap, reports emerged yesterday that Jamie Vardy had his heart set on a move to Celtic to reunite with Brendan Rodgers. That was the talk of the Sun yesterday. That was then touched upon by numerous different outlets, and Sky Sports confirmed this morning that there is interest, but there has been no official communication between Celtic and Jamie Vardy. There has been no reach out from the club itself to talk to Jamie Vardy. I think if the only conversations that will have been there will have been with Brendan Rodgers and the player. He did speak about it, though. He did get asked about it today to see if he is interested in the player, and Rodgers was tight-lipped on the matter. Brendan Rodgers said this: listen, I would not want to speak about any individual player. And of course, I have worked really well with Jamie. He was brilliant for me at my time at Leicester. But no, there has been many names floated about. There's been so many names, floated about, and I won't disclose anyone. So take of that what you will. I've already seen two schools of thought to this sentence in question of Brendan Rodgers. Have seen people saying that's usually his last line before he announces a player, or before Celtic announce a player. I've seen people saying, well, that means there's been nothing and it's a lot of nonsense. Nobody really knows, I assume, until we get a groundbreaking exclusive, which suggests that Celtic have entered contractual talks with Jamie Vardy. Of course, he's a free agent. You don't need to go through any clubs, which always makes situations like this a little bit tougher for journalists to pick up on. So you might hear people saying this or that, but just a quick reminder, when somebody isn't attached to a football club, there isn't as many sources that can leak information on the matter. Jamie Vardy and his family will be the only ones who have real interest in the say in the matter right now, that have a real understanding of where Jamie's next move is. And unless Jamie Vardy or somebody at Celtic decides to leak information to the press, there's nobody at Leicester City that's got to be reaching out and saying Jamie Vardy's away to Celtic. He's his own man, making his own decisions. And really, that's all that can be said right now. Brendan Rodgers saying he's not going to speak about any individual players at this moment in time. That includes Jamie Vardy, that includes Calvin Stengs, that includes any individual player. He has reiterated the squad needs to improve. We don't know if Jamie Vardy is one of those players that are going to be brought in to improve the squad. Well, we don't know from the manager's mouth himself as of yet. So that was one of the big things from the press conference this afternoon. Of course, Jamie Vardy has been the talk of the town amongst Celtic supporters. And apart from that, Brendan Rodgers did speak about what the aim is after qualification and improving the squad. He looks as though he's getting frustrated and tired. And he actually used the sentence in this that he's trying to avoid the frustration. In fact, his exact words is, "I'm not going to get too frustrated about it because I can't really control any of it." But I think if you go and you watch the press conference, you will see the look on Brendan Rodgers' face, and you can hear through his tone of speech that I think he's getting a bit tired as well. And I don't know if that's a tiredness of having to deal with it all or just a tired of having to speak about it in the press. But you can tell, as much as he's saying he's not going to get frustrated, I think there is probably a little bit that's there, because at the end of the day, this is his squad that he has to work with for the season. But he did say that, look, we have to qualify first and foremost, and if that's with this group of players, I'm confident that we can do that. But going forward, listen, it's clear we have to improve the squad. Not the first time he said that throughout this transfer window. He said he's been here long enough and he understands where we're at, but he's not going to get too frustrated about it because he can't control a lot of it. What he can control is the players that we have right now, helping them to be the very best they can be and making sure they're prepared and that they're ready. So we're hoping if we get somebody in or not, it'll be great. If not, then we'll go with what we've got. We'll do everything we can to ensure the details are right for this game. So Rodgers still sounding optimistic in regard to improving the squad, but we'll see how it goes. I think we're all kind of in the same boat right now, expecting Celtic to go through the Champions League qualification process before then going on to sign players or to be linked more realistically with players, to see if we're anywhere further down the line in terms of negotiation with players' parties or clubs. Right now, Jamie Vardy, to summarise Brendan Rodgers' press conference this afternoon, Jamie Vardy, he said nothing in regard to that indicates what the decision is there and where he's going. He's kept himself very quiet on the matter, and Brendan Rodgers has said it. He said it again. He's reiterated the point that Celtic do need to improve this squad moving forward in the Champions League. In fact, one of the big things that came up at the press conference this afternoon was Hayato Inamura, because he was asked about his exclusion from the Champions League squad, which obviously got a lot of Celtic fans talking and whether or not it was the right decision. And some people weren't happy with that. I like that Brendan Rodgers has came forward and offered his own clarification and reasoning for that. And I'm inclined to stand with the manager in his decision. He's made it very clear Hayato Inamura isn't ready for that level, that he will need development, maybe a loan move. I just think that right now, if he is, Brendan Rodgers is seeing him every single day in training and is making that decision, he is more than entitled to make that decision. I love the idea of Inamura being somebody that works for Celtic and comes into the Celtic squad eventually and offers a real option. But looking decent in pre-season, I mean, this is like, I'll bring up Sam's question here. I don't get it. He looked decent in pre-season, but apparently he's not up to standard. Pre-season is a completely different world from Champions League football. Pre-season is a completely different world from competitive football at the top level in any domestic league in Europe. And the brief minutes that we saw Inamura get in pre-season don't exactly stand up to show that he is going to be ready. The manager and the coaches make these decisions together. And at the end of the day, it's the managers and the coaches that see them 5 days a week. We don't. We see them playing a couple of training sessions. And you can only take that with a pinch of salt. It's as simple as that. I think there's players in the past that Brendan Rodgers has said similar about that have then went on to show that they have potential. There's maybe worked elsewhere or whatever. Of course, managers can get it right or wrong. There's no one way and one way only. They can be right or wrong on certain players. But you've got to be patient. This was a young guy that was brought in. Let's be real here. It's all well and good trying to convince yourself that Hayato Inamura could have been an option for Celtic. This is a young lad that graduated from university only last year, that has played 20 to 30 games at senior level. A young guy that has moved across the globe with that inexperience to a completely different world, a completely different country of football. I don't think it should be piled onto him that he is expected to be this great player for Celtic. Let him go and develop. Let him go and play elsewhere. Get him the loan move. As long as we go about it right. Hayato Inamura's future at Celtic hasn't been decided. It's not finished for the guy. He can go and he can work and he can play elsewhere. And I stand with the decision of Brendan Rodgers to leave him out the squad. I made this is the last time I'm going to say this, because I'm in danger of sounding like a broken record. It's got to be the last time that I say this. There are only a certain amount of spots in this Champions League squad. There is only 25 to be precise. There is only 11 places on the park. There's only a certain amount of substitutes. People were going after nut when Inamura wasn't on the bench against St Mirren. But here is the real point that you all need to remember. Who drops out for Inamura? Who? There is nobody you can justify giving their spot away to Hayato Inamura. He will understand that as a player. I think fans largely understand that. There is some that can't wrap their head around it. But there is nobody who can be left, who can be dropped for him, in my opinion. People saying Liam Scales. Liam Scales is somebody who's played over 100 games for Celtic. I'm not Scales' biggest fan. This isn't me suddenly defending him. I've been very critical of Liam Scales over the years. But to say that Hayato Inamura, who has never kicked a ball in the Champions League in his life, should be in over a guy that's played over 100 senior games for Celtic and won Champions League Man of the Match awards is insane. Of course they shouldn't. Because it would all change if it all went tits up with Kieran Tierney or whatever. To the way that I always worded it, the way that I've always worded it is that if Kieran Tierney was to drop down injured the game before we play Real Madrid, and Hayato Inamura was shipped out at left back against Real Madrid and was embarrassed, sold down the river, and just utterly done for, there would be no way back for him. Fans would wash their hands of him, and it would be completely unfair to young Inamura to put him in that situation. He's not ready for it, clearly, and the manager has made that clear. So that's my kind of final say on it all. I mean, I'm saying, Callum Osmond, yeah, I suppose what we're talking about here is moving forward past this round. Like, I don't think it's a big difference including Osmond in this round or Inamura in this round. None of them are going to play. So what does it really matter? And I don't think, and I see Aaron saying that at least Inamura would have a use. Would he? Would he really? Because Scales would just come on at left back. Inamura's not. It doesn't make a difference. I think people are reading into it far too much. But anyway, that's that. That was the basically the summary of today's press conference surrounding Jamie Vardy, surrounding the transfer window, and surrounding everything else. That's where we stand right now with Brendan Rodgers' comments, and we'll touch on that should anybody ask any questions. So yeah, let's kind of go into the Q&A segment of all of this. The next 15-20 minutes, I want to hear your points. It can be in regard to Jamie Vardy, it can be in regard to anything else. I want to hear all your points. I want to hear what you're saying. And we'll talk all about it. Rayan, nice to see you, channel member. Rayan, remember, if you want to become a channel member, go down below, use the top line in the description. Don't get the whole signing players after qualification. What happens if we don't qualify? We just sign nobody then? Well, it just gives the board the perfect excuse not to spend money because we've not made it to the Champions League. The thing is, the board have made a very calculated, a very calculated decision to wait because they know we should be The reality is this: if Celtic don't qualify, it's their own fault, but it would be embarrassing. We should be putting 4, 5, 6 goals past Kairat Almaty. And I don't mean that in a very over-the-top, confident way. We should be. That's the gap between both sides is fucking massive. We put 5 past Slovan Bratislava, for goodness sake. And they were the team they went to penalty shootouts with in the last round. So we should be battering them. And the board know that. And that's why they feel like they can get away with it. But it's the decision they've decided to make. Do I think that Simpson Pusey will be in the squad? I have a feeling we won't see Simpson Pusey until after the derby, to be quite honest. That's my opinion for now, but that might change very, very suddenly. Let's talk a little bit about Jamie Vardy, shall we? We'll start with Bill Scotland, who's another channel member, saying, I have nothing against Vardy. He could do a job for us in Scotland, but I hate how we're always a retirement destination for Premier League has-beens, and Vardy's been available since June. It's now August. On top of that, we have Eamon saying that Vardy will 100% do a job, but need another first-team ready striker to come in. I mean, if Vardy comes in, that's going to be it. There's not going to be another first-team striker signed. Like, Vardy would be the first-choice striker, and it would be a damning indictment of where Adam Ida's position is right now in this Celtic squad, because because if he's getting displaced for a 38-year-old Jamie Vardy, I really don't know what's next for either. People saying that we'd only take Vardy for this season. Vardy is not at Lennox Town, hasn't been spotted at Lennox Town, wasn't at Lennox Town. The only person that was at Lennox Town was Mark Albrighton, and he's retired and now coaching at Aston Villa's academy. He's probably up getting a wee lesson off of Brendan. So a lot of choices opinions being said about Jamie Vardy. It's a proper strange one, isn't it? It's one that I agree with the initial point that was raised by, I think it was Rayan, if I can find it again, but it's gone. I think that the fact that we've ended up here is just very frustrating. You know, I think it's just annoying. I've said it yesterday. I don't have a problem with Vardy himself. I think he'd come up here and score goals. I think he'd be a good option. But my God almighty, what are we doing? And what are we paying scouts for? You know, we've got experts behind the scenes that are meant to be, you know, scouting players. And we're ending up with Jamie Vardy, a player that any of us could have said go and sign in June. And it's just going to leave us back with the same problem like next season. Like, we're just going to end up back there. And I think this is the perfect wording of it, because my video earlier on today seemed to get a lot of mixed replies in the comments. People that were saying you're being incredibly harsh on the board, Vardy would be a good sign, and don't know why people have got it. So, you know, they have to defend the board endlessly or whatever. But, you know, the way that I look at it is exactly like this. Will he be better than Ida? Probably, yes. Will he improve the squad? Yes. Can we aim for better? Yes. Of course we can. And I think it's embarrassing that this is the way that we continue to go down. I seen somebody trying to compare it with Kasper Schmeichel. I'm not going to rewrite what I said about Schmeichel. I was in the exact same boat when we signed Schmeichel. Very happy with the guy himself. Brilliant keeper. Knew he'd do a job for Celtic, but was incredibly disheartened that we were going down that route. So I've not changed my tune. That was the tune that I had with Schmeichel. You can go back and watch me saying that. We aren't a retirement camp. We should be recruiting for the future. We don't want to leave ourselves in the same issues all the time. And that's what Celtic are wanting to do, apparently. And I don't understand it. If he comes up and scores goals, once again, they'll be vindicated. They'll look at the smart ones, and we'll be the ones that have apparently been needlessly moaning. One thing that I do want to address before we continue talking about Vardy or we move on, I seen something earlier on. I see a lot of people, I don't know if they've seen one person say it and they've just kind of all ran with it, but I've seen so many people give it in the comment section of my video earlier, like, oh, Vardy won't work. How's he meant to come up here and play against a low block? His whole point is playing on the line and running in behind defenders. He won't be able to do that. Can I remind you, our last striker was Kyogo fucking Furuhashi? Like, what is this narrative that apparently you just can't score against a low block? What do you want? I never had him either. It's just a nonsense. I don't know who started that narrative about how strikers that run in behind can't score for Celtic, because that's just pish. It's utter pish. And like, Kyogo done pretty well for a striker that liked to run in behind defenders. That's all I'll say. And I don't think that Vardy's quite got the legs that Kyogo has. Don't get me wrong. But I think that he would do just fine, to be honest. And that's that. Mackenzie saying that Robin Van Persie, of course, Feyenoord manager, says that he doesn't see Calvin Stengs as a key player, is willing to part ways. Keep an eye on that. We'll see where that goes. I hope that Celtic are seriously in about that. But once again, money's involved, so they probably won't be. And Robin Van Persie has a bit of a turnip when it comes to management, by the sounds of things, so I wouldn't be shocked. Aaron Smith chipped into the Jamie Vardy conversation, saying that Vardy and Schmeichel are clear panic free agents. Don't fill me with too much confidence about a player trading model, and our board try to convince us it exists. But I agree 100%. But this is the thing. You'll go to the AGM and you'll bring this up, like, oh, you're going on about this player trading model. Well, why are we signing Jamie Vardy? And they'll probably turn around and go, well, you know, we've got examples of Nicholas Kuhn and such and such. Like, we're letting them away with murder. We're letting them away with murder. And if we're okay, fine, right, I'll give you the example of Kuhn then, Mr. Nicholson or Mr. Lawwell. But where's the money being spent that you've made on it? If that's the player trading model, why are you signing free agents with it? You know? Rayan saying it is weird because our defence and our midfield is so strong at the minute. However, the attack is one Maeda injury away from a complete disaster. Yeah, I especially when things actually get really tough for us, when we play the likes of Rangers and Champions League games and we're playing every Wednesday, Saturday or Tuesday, Sunday or whatever it is, you know, that will be that. Yeah, it's one of those ones that I think that Vardy will please those who are continuously backing of the Celtic board. But it's going to leave a bitter taste in the mouth of most fans. And that's nothing against the guy himself. And if for the record, by the way, always been a huge Jamie Vardy fan. Think he's a cracking player, a proper striker, scores goals, and a bit of a shithouse. I hate that phrase, but he is, and I've always liked him. And I would never have dreamed of seeing him play for Celtic, but I think in the big year of 2025, for him to be coming in as your reliable striker option is just a little bit nuts. To be fair, KS9 saying that the player trading model is a lot of shite. Anyway, you'll get one O'Reilly for all of the Kwons, Yangs, and Lagerbielkas. Might be on to something. Yeah, Helen, we said it earlier on. I agree. I think you could see the frustration in Brendan Rodgers' face. He's getting tired of it, and I don't blame him. I'm getting tired coming on here talking about it on YouTube. So I can't imagine how the actual manager himself feels like. Like, I feel like you just don't see the behind the scenes when I sit down recording and editing and all the rest of it. Like, I'm sighing when I'm reading the same shite all the time. I need to do it, but I'm sighing. And I'm still trying to put it out there. Anyway, keep your questions piling in. And we'll talk about a number of things. Of course, I think we've glossed over the fact that we do have that huge game tomorrow where Celtic need to take quite a big lead, I would say, over to Kazakhstan, just to keep things positive and just to give us the confidence that the second leg won't be, a kind of dodgy affair. I remember Astana, and that was, it was dodgy, but, Hello, Murray. How you doing? DM McDonald saying that, yes, Ryan, how are we doing? I'm doing fine. Rodgers sounding very scunnered at this point, to be honest. Hate to overreact, but if there's no significant signings, no way this squad will get us through until the new year. I disagree with the second part. I simply think that Celtic will be fine domestically, simply down to the fact that the competition's too weak in the league. And when I say what I mean is that Rangers are too weak. I think they'll be fine domestically, but you're not wrong in terms of like, what are we going to do in the Champions League with this attacking outlet that we have right now? Because we're not going to score enough goals to actually compete. I don't see us attacking games the way that we attacked them last season, where we were able to go and play the likes of Leipzig and Bratislava and put goals by them with conviction. I don't know if we have that in us right now. So in terms of Europe, yeah, I do agree. Maybe it will be a struggle up until New Year. I think domestically we were just fine. And I think the first 3 games have showed that. We've scored, 7 goals? Sorry, 7 goals in 3 games. We've only conceded 1. We'll be pretty fine. I'm adamant of that. But one thing that I think, I'm still seeing a lot of people have turned on me in my comment section. Apparently, I've became a greeting-faced bastard, and I'm, help it. I seen a comment yesterday that says, I'm looking to add to the dread and misery and I'm stirring the pot. No, I'm not stirring any pots. I'm not fucking adding to the dread and misery. In fact, the dread and misery has existed long before I got on board. And I don't blame fans for showing dread and misery for the past few months. I just happen to be slightly more optimistic than people, thinking that we wouldn't be in this position come the 19th of August, the night before the Champions League qualifier. And hands up, I was wrong. I was silly enough to believe that Celtic would act in a way that would entitle them to the name of a big club, an elite club, and we haven't. Yeah, I'm not adding to any fucking dread or misery. The dread and misery's been there. And I just don't get how at this point you can back the Celtic board. There is my video the other day highlighted it all. I feel like they're acting with a complete contempt against us. From all the stuff that's happening in the stands, I'm an active match day going fan. I know some people don't get the leisure of being an active match day going fan between how expensive it is and how hard it is to get tickets. I go every week. I've got a season book, and I see the way that they're setting up the stewards to deal with fans in the stands. I see what's going on with the Green Brigade and everything else. I see everything. I talk about it every day, and I know that there's an absolute contempt for their own supporters, it feels like. And it doesn't help when they're not backing the team and backing the manager. So I just don't get how at this point you can be like, oh, why are you jumping sides? And why? Of course, I'm not jumping any side. I've been on this bandwagon for years. I've just been a wee bit more patient this year because I truly believed in my heart of hearts that we would have acted quicker. And we haven't done it. So full on me. That's my own fault. But, this isn't the first example of Celtic fans being treated with contempt. So I don't know how people are still acting blind about it, but here we are. So, yeah, Nikaritsu saying that the transfer window isn't looking promising. I'm not waiting for a miracle to happen before the deadline. The board are simply taking the actual mick with cheap transfers and not replacing quality that's left. I think that sums up a lot of how the Celtic fans are feeling right now. Let's see. The captain, the whole squad, the coaching staff, the management team, and the supporters all know we need to be making signings, and the board still turn a blind eye. I'm sorry, Michael, I can't calm down. When I get going, I get going. I've been getting a lot of these. Are people actually donating? Because it's not been popping up the way that it usually would. And I feel it's like as if you're typing it out rather than actually donating. And I don't know, I thought I was getting pranked at first, but now I'm starting to feel like that there's a software issue and people have actually been donating. But I'm not getting notifications as if people are actually donating. I know I feel bad because if I've been ignoring folk when they've been making donations and stuff, then I'm going to feel like a right Robin bastard. Let me just jump over to my actual YouTube stream very, very quickly. I apologize. Yeah, I apologize if that's the case. Let me just check. Yeah, they have. I'm so sorry, ladies and gents. My software hasn't been showing these up as donations. So I apologize for that. I don't know what's going on software side of things. So I'm going to scroll up and just give. I can't see all of them because my chat won't. If you have donated, I can't help but reiterate the point. Thank you very much, and I appreciate that. Adam, thank you for the £10 saying, imagine that Vardy broke the Ibrox corner flag. Football porn. Still not chuffed with it. It's a body and not quality. I think it's quality to an extent, but it's not the quality I think we were... It's hard to speak because Vardy's one of the best Premier League strikers of the last 10 years, but we're not a retirement home. And if he comes in and scores, I'll obviously be happy with that. But yeah, I'm not chuffed with it. You're right, Adam. And unless it might not even happen. I think that it's very easy to be dragged into it right now just because of how bad it's been. But yeah, I mean, I'd love that if he broke the Ibrox corner flag. I think a derby goal for him would be absolutely fantastic. Now, I am pretty annoyed that my software hasn't. I'm going to go and see if I can bring up the donations that have happened throughout the stream, and then we'll get back to the questions because I feel really guilty when I don't shout out people for donations or anything like that. I'm not. They're not showing up yet because the stream's not done. I can't help but reiterate, if you have donated or anything like that, thank you so much. I do appreciate it. I'm sorry that this has happened. I'm trying to scroll up and see if I can see any very, very quickly. And don't worry, I'll give you 5 or so minutes back on stream time that we're losing here. Usually it comes up highlighted in colours for me, and it's just not done that. I generally thought people were winding me up at the start of the stream trying to get my attention, saying like, donated £10, and I was like, well, I don't think you have. And you actually have, which is so annoying. Yeah, I'm struggling to find them again, all the code. There's been that many. The chat has been flying. I'm sure you can understand it's quite difficult to go back and find very specific comments. This was a $4.99 from Dan McGill earlier on, saying the fact that bringing Tierney back is our biggest acquisition so far, and this happened last winter, speaks so much volumes. Yeah, the fact, Tierney is a magnificent signing, and I don't think that should be downplayed, but that's something that Celtic completed in January, and they're going to flaunt it as if it's like enough. And like, yeah, it's great, and maybe at another time it would be enough, but now isn't the time. Now we're very weak going forward, and we need these players. So that's that. Ranny's Rovers, thank you for becoming a member. Sorry for Peter Lawwell stealing it. I do feel sorry. I'm going to skip back down the chat. Thank you to Ranny's Rovers once again. It is absolutely legendary stuff from you, sir. Thank you. Daniel Rogan, would you say you've fully hit the panic button? I feel like we're depending on a big deadline day like we had under Ange with Giakoumakis, Jota and Vickers. I think that I wouldn't use the phrase panic button. I think panic button would suggest that I fear that we're not going to win the league, that I fear that we're not going to be able to compete for trophies. I think panic button's a stretch for me. I'm annoyed and I'm frustrated and I'm concerned that we haven't improved to the extent we should. But I'm still, despite all of that, this current squad should still be winning the league. This current squad should still be competing for the cups. I just, the most frustrating thing is, I often hark back to this. Sitting in the room at Celtic Park the day Brendan Rodgers returned to the club. I sat there and I listened to him speak about how he was impressed with what Peter and Michael had to show him in terms of the change of transfers and recruitment and ambition, and it was enough to bring him back. What annoys me is the fact that it feels like he's been betrayed on that, and that's where my frustration really stems from. My frustration stems more from that than it does the actual lack of bodies coming through the door, because I feel like not only the fans have been sold a promise and a dream, but the manager has, and that's what's going to drive him out the door. And you know me, I love the big man. I love Rodgers. And it just feels like he's been shortchanged. And I mean, Cammy's asking this as a joke, but God almighty, it wouldn't stun me if you know, Sean Maloney was to stand up and get the Celtic job. That's just how this club, he's not going to. Obviously, he's not going to, but I'm just, as a joke, I mean, like, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Elliot, hello brother, how are you? It's either we've made it into the Champions League without signing, so we don't need them, or we didn't make it in and so we can't afford it. Nothing will change. Yeah, it feels like it's going in that sort of direction. And I commented on my own video the other day, and it was a point I forgot to leave out in my video. That's, dude, by the way, thank you again. I think it's got about 30,000 views at the minute, which is fantastic. It feels like, and I know this isn't what is actually happening. Well, it might be. But what it feels like is that the Celtic board are laughing at all of us, and they're deliberately doing things to see how far they can push us. It's almost as if they want a reaction. You know how when, like, you're winding your mate up and you're getting them to bite and you keep saying things, and then you know you're going to get them. There's going to be one line that gets them hook, line, and sinker, one that will make them completely overreact and lose the nut. It feels like, you know what, when Ant and Dec are sitting behind the scenes on Saturday Night Takeaway, telling folk what to do to prank folk. It feels like they're doing that to us, and it feels like they're seeing how far they can go very deliberately to push the Celtic fans over the edge. They're gambling with a boiling point for some reason. And there's some people who will still turn around and go, oh, you're over-exaggerating it or whatever. I don't think I am. How far away from Celtic fans being genuinely pissed off about things? And that much to go and protest. We've been there before. So, yeah, I don't know. It just feels very, very strange. It feels like they are just gambling with this boiling point for some reason. Also, apparently, Club Brugge are already up 1-0. You'll love to see it. And yeah, so on that note, I'm going to wrap up there. We had over 300 live viewers at a point. Thank you to everybody who donated and bought memberships throughout this stream. You guys are the best, and I apologize for the system not showing me properly to bring these up on screen. But you just let it be known that you are appreciated. And thank you for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with probably a double upload of sorts, a news video / match preview early in the day, and then a match reaction tomorrow night. So keep an eye out for both of them. And thank you for all the support in recent days and this summer in general, lads, because it's been a frustrating summer, but you guys have made it tolerable for me, which is bizarre to say. But take care, enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll see you all next time.